Hi everyone.
Hi everyone.
Welcome to another episode of Can We Discuss with Yara and Petra.
On today's episode, we're going to be talking about some realizations that we've had about our parents as we got older. It's going to be a very emotional one, I feel like today, Yana. At least for me,
Petra's
like
always ready to cry. Although it's not an emotional topic. It's not
I
really
know
that
it's not,
emotional.
but
بس
like
فترة هيك
first of
دمعتها
all,
خسية شو بيقولوا هيك دمعتها خسية خسعة شو ما بعرف.
دمعت.
أي.
The thing is with me is I'm already like super homesick right now, like I'm dying internally. Um, but we're smiling, we're fine. But but also, anything that has to do with like mom and dad just makes me very emotional naturally. So let's see how this one goes.
Anything that has to do with life makes Petra emotional.
That's also very true. Ya Allah.
She's the strongest, most emotional person I know.
Very, very, very great way to put it.
Okay,
Okay,
yalla.
so I'm gonna start with a question to you. So, what are some stereotypes that you think you had about mom and dad when we were younger?
Um, Actually, I think this is something a lot of children have about their parents when they're younger, and then only when your friends start to become parents do you start realizing this. You think your parents have their shit together all the time. You think they're perfect. You think they know everything, and then you grow up and you realize they're just winging it as they go. يعني ما
Like
بعرف
all.
هلا our friend the other day قالت لنا ولد عم بيربي ولد you know.
Oh,
أولاد
made
عم
me laugh
بيربوا
so
أولاد.
hard. She
It's
made me
so
laugh
funny.
so hard.
Dude, because I used to say that to one of our really good friends as well, you know? I used to look at her when she got married really young. She became a mom really young. And I used to look at her and her husband and I go like, guys مش معقول انتوا عن جد اولاد عم بتربوا ولد يعني ما.
Yeah.
And that's when you start realizing that actually parents don't have their shit together all the time. مش ما بيكونوا عارفين كل شيء. They're figuring it out as they go. يعني مثل كل هالعالم. They're learning as they go. They're
Yeah.
exploring, and it's a lot of trial and error with a lot of things that they're doing as well. بس
Yeah.
إنه you come to realize as well that your parents do the best that they can with what they have at the moment.
100%. I think
And
for me, I was the same. And then as we grew older and like mom and dad started opening up about things a little bit more and like obviously like we're best friends with mom and dad now at this point. And so we were very close to them at such a young age. Like mom and
yeah,
dad were very open as humans, like to us in the house, like
yeah.
communication was very important. We'll get to that. But um when I started, when we started to like notice that, you know what? No, they don't have their shit together. They're not perfect. I like low key was a little bit sad, you know? Like,
Dude, أنا بعدني لهلا بقولها لمام sometimes or لداد or whoever يعني whichever one I'm talking to إنه أوقات بحس حالي أنا عم برجع ربيكم. Or when our parents look at their friends and go like ليك هون ولادنا عم بيربونا هلا.
and sometimes it's like we got to do it, you know? It has to be done.
You
We're
have to.
we're
Yeah, you have to.
we're clearly on the same playing field here. Like obviously you can't take away their years of experience. بحكي أنا corporate language, years of experience. But at the same time, like
The world is evolving and changing.
very quickly. And
Yes,
like our days are so different than their days. Like,
absolutely.
bless their souls, but they had it so fucking easy. Amjad. So do we, by the way,
Listen,
mind you, like,
you can't say that. You can't say that. I feel like every generation has it differently than the other, right? We
okay, fine.
also, if you look at this is again just to kind of comparing the States being the States versus being the Middle East or whatever. But if you look at the different times as well, كيف كان إنه هون صوب الخليج صوب the Middle East كيف كانت الحياة كيف كانت بأمريكا بس نحن our parents were in the States right it's completely different so there's a lot of
Yeah.
factors I mean that's like a
Yeah.
generalization that can be applicable in some areas but it's not totally right so
Not totally, yeah. But I just feel like our world right now, just like the reality is like with technology, our world is very fast paced. It's changing so quickly. Like even as much as technology is amazing and keeps us connected and you know I can't live without that. We can't live without it anymore. في نفس الوقت it brings a lot of challenges that especially our generation being like the first one to grow up with technology and like see the shift in that it just definitely comes with a lot of challenges and it makes things a lot harder to deal with. Like كنا عم نحكي عن هيدا الموضوع in one of the previous episodes where we were just kind of like our brains are not really هلا they're evolving obviously but انه they're not equipped to take on the emotion of the world and that's really what you do when you have all of the news and all of these images and all of this shit that's happening all around the world just like affecting you on a daily basis. So that's what I mean when I say like it's tougher in that sense where they could like literally just focus on their own thing. Like if you come up with an idea, it's like new to the people around you at least, you know, like they haven't been exposed to it from a million other platforms or a million other places. هيك اشياء. But I think that's a very good stereotype that I think a lot of us have. One other stereotype, we didn't have it with our parents.
that's not
A lot of our friends did. Yeah, doesn't be like, do we really need to say this? But a lot of our friends told us this. A stereotype was that, you know, their parents didn't have sex. Like that was a stereotype that they had about their parents. Look at the reactions between me and Yara, the difference. You can tell, you know, for our personalities. But that was also a stereotype that I used to like not spy on my parents. Sounds weird. I used to snoop around their things, so I knew that that was
really
happening.
weird فجأة كنا
Yeah,
نلاقيها فاتحة شيخ زينة وعم بتبحبش بغراض موتها
1000%. Like their shit was my shit. There was no privacy. Like
yeah.
you gave
Petra
birth to
had
me.
no sense of privacy, no sense of personal space, no sense of anything. She was just all over the place.
Yeah, not at all.
With me and my brother too. ما تفكروا بس مع أهلي. With everyone.
Oh, the whole family. Like we are, we share the same blood. Like how can we not share everything else? You know? Anyways, but yeah, so that was one as well that they had about their parents, which I think that that's really funny because also like in a lot of households, that's kind of like a taboo topic, especially in a lot of Arab households, I should say.
Arab households, definitely.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter your religion, just Arab households as of
doesn't matter your religion, doesn't matter which country you're from, just Arab culture, like sex was a very taboo topic, even though it's
a
halal,
lot of
right?
topics, a lot of different topics, right? We're kind of
Yeah.
taboo. Like there's a lot of things that our parents our parents talk about everything because to them it was always like, even if we think it's taboo, we do believe it's best for you to hear it from us than hearing it or learning about it from your friends, right? So this was something I'm extremely grateful for my parents for, even though they were like, we are against it, we don't like this, we don't accept it. We just wanted you to hear about all of these things from us rather than hearing it from your friends, right? Or learning something that's not right from your friends. But I think another stereotype that a lot of our friends have also pointed out about their parents, right? And this is something that's like really weird because our family has always been very open about communicating with regards to finances, right?
Oh.
So a lot of people have a stereotype that their parents, okay, fine, had everything together, all their shit together, but that they also had all of their finances in order and they had their life planned out perfectly, right? That's a stereotype that a lot of people in our generation had that unfortunately, and I'm very sad to say, بس إنه that bubble burst really quickly when the whole capital control happened in Lebanon and everyone's like,
I was just going to say.
Yeah.
Especially if you're Lebanese, that burst real quick.
That burst real quick within a few days of our revolution. It was not good.
Yeah.
not the best of
Yeah.
the best, right? So financial decisions was also a big one.
For us personally, like that was definitely something that obviously as we grew older and started to understand what finances mean even, is when our parents were like open and honestly communicating to us about.
Absolutely. It was something that it's not about being open about their own finances. It's about being open about how you should manage your finances and whatnot. And they always teach you, like parents in general, they want to teach you what they know, but it's your job to take it a step further and to kind of educate yourself on what's happening in today's world, right?
Yeah.
It's not on them, it's on you. خلاص, at a certain point, this is a realization that I came to as well after I graduated from my master's, right? I realized that at a certain point, خلص علموك عطيوكم كل شيء فيهم يعطوكم إياه. It's your job to go out into the world and do what you may with the information that they provided you. They can't hold your hand throughout the rest of your life. They'll always be there to guide you, support you, help you.
You need them.
If they're not there, their voice is always going to be in your head, right?
Yeah, that's something we used to hear a lot from mom, I feel like. Obviously dad too, but like mom a lot would also say it to her friends when they're dealing with things with their kids, where it's like, لا خلص انه انت ربيتيهم هن, they have a good head on their shoulders, you have to let them make their own decisions,
Yeah.
you know. And that was something she always repeated to us even. And she'd be like, you have all the tools, you know what you need to do, you're getting my opinion, this is my opinion, this is what I would do, but you have to make that decision for yourself.
Yeah.
And that was like, I'm in my audiobook, like that's something that they always say is if you want to help someone, you give them the tools. Me and my audiobook, you give them the tools so that they don't need your help, you know. And they say that that's the best way that you can help someone.
But that's like that saying, شو بيقولوا, give someone a fish and you feed them for a day, teach someone how to fish and you feed them for the rest of their life, right? That's kind of how the saying goes.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think it's about realizing that there's a certain point where even as parents, you start realizing that there's a lot of stuff that they wanted to do for themselves and they didn't do because of you as their children. They wanted to give you everything that they possibly can, or something that they had. Or are you gonna cry already?
No, but I think that's so cute, like for real.
But
parents are just.
And listen, I feel like all parents are going to do that. يعني, inshallah, you never know. You're going to do that as well. That's at a certain point in your life. I'm going to do that as well. You know what I mean? It's just the way that life is. And it's, to me, it's not about being emotional about these things, but it's really about being a bit more realistic and seeing that this is how it is. طب شو بتعملي؟
مظبوط. And obviously, like, we completely, like, disclaimer, not if a lot of parents go through their own things, and يعني, not everyone's able to give their children everything that they want to give them. كل هول الأخبار. بس إنه for me, like, becoming a parent is literally like the most selfless act. A lot of people today are like, oh, it's so selfish if you bring a kid to this world, like with all of the shit going on. And I understand, like, it's a tough world. But like, I think that's actually the most selfless act because you give your all to that child. And you want to see them do everything that you wish you were able to do, that you weren't brave enough to do, or that you didn't have the resources to do. And that's why I think like being a parent is literally like the most selfless thing that you can do. Like we see it so much. Like we were blessed to be raised by like not only like mom and our grandmas who are amazing and our aunts, like we've seen them really like genuinely sacrifice everything for their kids, you know, and be it like their careers, be it their education, be it where they lived, be it their relationship with their husband. Like we have our aunts who wanted to give their kids like a good life in Lebanon. They lived their whole lives away from their husbands. Like أنا اليوم حدا يقول لي أعمل هيك شيء إنه عايشة أنا بمال وجيس بمال لا, no way, you know, like no matter who's in the equation. So I think like there's so much that goes into it, but that's like a part of a big other thing that I want to go into is like that switch when you start to see your parents as humans and not as only parents. You start to understand and know they have friendships that they want, they have ambitions that they want to do, they have dreams and travel plans and things that they've been wanting to do that possibly they've put on hold for you,
But
you
can I
know?
tell you something? كمان something هلا no, I started realizing as well. It's also the parents who show you that they are also their own individual person outside of just being your mom and dad, right?
Yeah.
They need to يعني من انت وصغيرة or from whenever the kids are young, they also need to show you that we love you, we will do anything and everything for you, but you are not our only source of happiness. We are our own source of happiness, and we are in control of that, right? Because we want you to go out into the world and enjoy your life. For example, when it comes to like traveling or doing something ourselves or whatnot, our parents are always like, yeah, a kid, go do whatever you want. And then it's because إذا بدكم تحملوا مسؤولية من هلا لأنه you are your own people and this is how you learn. And we've always kind of been pushed to be our own people, our own
Yeah.
personalities, our own
Yeah.
identities. But this is also because, and then you look back ما بتكون ملاحظة أنت بالأول إنه هالشي عم بيصير. Obviously, as a kid, none of this stuff just goes like over your head. But as an adult, and you're looking back at some of your memories, some of the conversations, whatever it is, you start realizing, and yeah, actually, they were kind of عم بيثبتوا their personalities as well, like their identities as human beings, separate outside of just I am mom, I am dad, I am
Yeah.
also my own person, you know.
100%.
And then we see it now as adults with some of our friends as well, right?
Yeah.
I look at my friends and I'm like, oh, okay, her, the parent, her, my friend, going out, drinking, doing, you know, and all.
But I think that that's a beautiful thing to instill within yourself as a parent from the beginning. Our parents, I remember very well, من نحن وصغار, they always showed us their playful side, showed us their different personalities, like dad's jokester side, mom's social side. Like من نحن وصغار, they introduced their friendships into our lives. They introduced their personal time into our lives. Like if mom's like reading, or if obviously dad would work and travel. And like on the weekends, they would always like go out together with their friends, like balena nahna. And
Yeah.
I think that that's super important. It just always showed us that there's life to be lived for them as well, you know? Another thing that I want to come to, like with your parents, communication is key, you know, within households. And for us,
even if it's going to get you in trouble, right? Even if it's going to get you in trouble.
100%. I mean, I know I've had
into a lot of trouble because of communication, but I mean,
yeah, I've had a lot of like awkward conversations with mom and dad, both of them growing up and as an adult as well, because مش بس لأنه خلص أنت you're an adult هلا بركي بتفهمي أشياء بطريقة غير, but it doesn't mean like they're still your parents and it's still going to be like an awkward conversation to have with them, but you still have it, and it's important to always, always, always talk about it, you know. And even up to today and yesterday and the day before, there's always these awkward conversations that you're going to have and have to talk about with your parents, because if you don't communicate, that's when things are going to derail. But on communication, what was like one topic that you wish you could have discussed more openly with mom and dad?
I don't think there's one topic. There's a lot of different topics.
I have a topic.
What?
I have a topic. I actually used to tell this to mom all the time when I was younger, and eventually, like it happened with me and Jason's move here, but living with your partner before marriage. Obviously, I'm not saying living with a million boyfriends, like people that you aren't serious with, but people that you know are like, actually, like, this is someone that I actually feel like I'm building a future towards, and I want to really test that part of our relationship as well.
Yeah.
So I think like for me, I had to have that conversation with mom when me and Jace made the decision to move here to the US, right? And naturally مش كل واحد منا حياخد شقة, you know, like we were engaged at that point. But I feel like since I was 11, I would be like, Mom, I want to live with my fiance before we get married. She would be like, okay Patra skitty انت وهالحكي you know. Um, but that happened eventually when we moved here to the US, you know, you manifest this shit. But I think that's one thing, and it goes back to the Arab culture thing, I think,
It's a
right?
culture. It's absolutely a cultural thing. It's
Yeah,
also it's culture because it's also linked to religion as well, right? And the way that we look at things and the way that we see things, blah
صح.
blah blah. But and I think, especially I say this after we've been married and whatnot. I think it's so important now.
Oof,
I think it's so important to live with a person before you get married to them. It's
100%. Yeah.
it really gives a different, not a different perspective, بس بالعكس
You just
it gets you closer. You live in a different way. You know what
مزبوط
I mean? خلص, you build
مزبوط
this relationship that you don't see when you're not living with the person. It's,
مزبوط.
I don't know. And travel
I
is like that too. Travel is one thing. Oh my
okay,
God, I remember mom. That was a big thing.
I have a funny one with mom.
So when it came to like traveling alone, for example, with your like partner or whatnot, this was something that was like a kind of a no-no kind of situation. And then you just do, and you
صح.
tell them, and you're like, okay, that wasn't as bad. And that's why I think communication is key, right? Because when you actually have the conversation,
Not
before
that
you
bad.
have the conversation, you just build up all of these different assumptions in your mind,
Yeah,
and you kind of
yeah,
blow it out of proportion, or blow what the conversation is going to end up being out of proportion. But at
yeah.
the end of the day, you start realizing that, what do you mean? Your parents, obviously, they're human beings too. بيفهموا إنه حياتكم or أيامنا غير أيامهم. Just
100%.
talk about it,
Talk
you
about
know, like talk
it.
about it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously, me and Jason, like the situation in Lebanon, like helped that case a lot. Um,
But also you,
and
Petra, أنت كتير like
yeah, I know, I feel bad, but it is what it is. They know who they raised. Let's be real. Um, but again, it goes back to the fact مثل ما كنا عم نقول إنه communication is key, and these uncomfortable conversations that you are gonna have with your parents, they're actually gonna bring you guys so much closer. حتى the travel thing, like بتذكر, I remember like to the minute, me and mom's conversation about me and Jace's first trip abroad alone. And I remember it so well. We were like on our walk تحت البيت. بس بتذكر هيدا الconversation so well. It was so much lighter than I ever expected it to be. But yeah, so I think the last topic that I want to talk about before we close this out is when you start to realize that you're getting older, but that also means that your parents are getting older.
yeah. I think that's a big one because you don't realize it until you're probably in your late 20s. You start going like, oh my God, أنا عم بكبر. Okay, بس كل العالم حوالي عم يكبروا. And you
صح.
start, and I started seeing it even more when one of our closest cousins, he got married and he started having kids, and I'm super close to his family and his wife and his children. And I started seeing that they're growing older. You don't really notice it when you're on your own because nothing
Yeah.
is changing in your life. بس تشوف الأولاد عم يكبروا, you're like, oh my God, I'm getting older. They're getting older.
100%.
Like the parents are getting older. It's, you
Yeah.
start to feel like, oh my God, it's there's time
You're
to do a lot of things is not there, especially when you
running
don't
out.
live with them all the time anymore. You start realizing that, oh my God, شو كان حلو بس كنا كلنا مع بعض كل الوقت. يعني that was a whole different kind of life.
It's definitely something where هلا whenever we are back in Lebanon, like we try to spend as much like quality time as we can with our parents.
It's
But
about
it's
looking at the little moments as the big moments.
yeah,
I think we've
yeah,
said this
and that's
before, but it's
yeah,
really, it's just about holy the little things, day to day اللي ما كتير هال big deal that make up the biggest parts of your memories, of your emotions, of your heart, your feelings, whatever.
yeah. And that's what I think. If anyone like listening today is gonna take anything, is like make sure that you're making the most out of it. Your parents are like the biggest blessing. I don't have any regrets of saying like I wish I hung out with them more in the summers. Like try to do an active effort to make that happen. But again, like I do know that it is just like natural phases that you go
Yeah.
through that goes through, you know? Um, but yeah, I think
It's all about
I think
learning
that
as you go and
was
changing your attitudes or your habits as you go with everything.
yeah. And another thing, another last thing is like talk to your parents as well about their lives before you. I think that's like some of
Yeah.
the funnest conversations that
Conversations
we've
that we've had,
had.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's
It's
also
like
about
what
talking to them as human beings and not just as your parents, having the
get to
conversation.
know them as humans. Like
Yes.
yeah, like as if عم تتعرف على حدا جديد
Or
لأنه
as
they
if you're
lived a
talking to
complete
your
life.
as if you're talking to your friends, not
صح.
just your parents,
Now
your
when
grandparents, your friends' parents, your in-laws. Have those conversations with them. A lot
yeah,
of kids tend to not have these conversations or just think, oh, adults are adults. ما ضروري احكي معهم بهالمواضيع، ما ضروري اسالهم هالاسئله. But it's just about, if you're asking your friend, how does it feel for you to be a new dad? You can ask the grandfather, how does it feel for you to be a grandfather for the first time? You know what I mean?
yeah.
Stuff like that.
Or how did it
Yeah,
feel for you as well when you became a new dad, you
absolutely.
know?
Exactly.
Um,
Exactly.
but yeah, I think it's just a very interesting dynamic between parents and children. It's always evolving, it's always growing, it's always changing, and everyone obviously has their own experiences. But tell us some of your own realizations about your parents as you grew older, or potentially realizations that you've had even at a younger age. And as usual, make sure that you like, comment, subscribe, and come right back here next week for another episode of Can We Discuss with Yara and Petra. Thanks for joining, everyone.
Thanks for listening.